Hi, everybody. I'm glad to see you all here today. So before we get started, tell me how many of you are caregivers right now? Okay. I have been a caregiver for a long time. I'm not presently a caregiver. I helped at a young age care for my father. He had rheumatoid arthritis. He passed away when he was 66. Then, as life went on, he passed away when I was in college. As life went on, also helped care for my brother, my mother, and my sister. So they have all passed on. As my husband said, I ain't got no mom, I ain't got no dad, I can do whatever I want to. So that's where I am in life. So I'm sure all of you have heard this quote at some time or another. There are only 4 kinds of people in the world: those who have been caregivers, those who are currently caregivers, and those who will be caregivers, and those who will need caregivers. So at some point in time, we will all fit into that, and that's really where I am, or where I was on that journey. This is a quote by Rosalind Carter, and I don't know if you've heard that sadly recently she has been diagnosed with dementia. And she created an institute to help with dementias at one point in her life. And she also, prior to this, was a caregiver for her husband. So what does a caregiver look like? And I think we all have something in our heads what we think a caregiver looks like. It is typically a female. She's 49. She may still have children at home. She's probably still raising her family, has a husband, probably has a career at this point. We call this the sandwich generation. Has anybody heard of the sandwich generation? So that sandwich is, now she might be helping her parents do little things. Things might start slipping up. She might have to start going to the doctor, start doing things like that for her parents. But she's also maybe running her son to a soccer practice, or picking up friends and taking them to the movies for her daughter, things like that. So she's carrying across the board. Typically, 42% of us will take care of a parent. And as I go through this presentation, I will typically say she, because the most hands-on caregiving I did was for my mother. So I'm not just pointing out she's only, but it's just because that's who I cared for the most and had the most aggravation over. So you will hear my stories about my quirky little mother who stood about this tall and had an attitude this big. And she could tell you like nobody's business. But so there are 53 million caregivers in the world today, and that will continue to grow as more and more the baby boomers are aging. When we also talk about the sandwich generation, now we're looking at what people are calling the panini generation, because now, as we're going through, and especially after the pandemic, now you have some grandparents who are taking care of those children that their children had. So now you've got grandparents, your children, their children, and you're all squished together in this panini, because the grandparents have now moved back in with the children that they raised, and now they're helping raise those grandchildren. So it's all one big family smashed together, helping everybody take care of everybody. So it's a whole different ballgame than what it used to be in the past. Well, and really originally that's how it was. The families all lived together, then we all spread out, and now we're all coming back together again. So the average caregiver role is about 4 years. So if you are in the sandwich generation, that could be the high school years. When I was caring for my mother, it was through my daughter's high school graduation and through my sister's through her college is when I was caring for my sister. So that was that whole time in her life that I was taken away to care for them. They lived in Pennsylvania, so I was caregiving from here in Tennessee to Pennsylvania, making trips back and forth to care for them. So this says, beware of pitfalls. Think about in life who you are. I'm not just Robin. I'm somebody's daughter. I'm somebody's mother, somebody's wife, somebody's friend. We all are called something. There's always a name. And my husband and my daughter, people recognize them all the time, and then I'm, her mother or his wife. But when you become a caregiver, you take on that persona. And often, all those other things go away. And that's who you are. And then that's who you become. And everything else is forgotten. You are solely focused on being a caregiver. And then you often take away all the things that you enjoy doing. All those things fall by the wayside. You don't get to see your friends, or you don't get to take a break, or you don't get to slow down or go on vacation often, because now you're a caregiver and you've got to be careful not to go down that slippery slope of this is all you do. This is very scary. 30% of caregivers will die before the person that they're caring for, due to a risk of other diseases that typically will rise with maybe depression or because they're not taking care of their own health. 70% of caregivers over the age of 70 will predecease the one they're caring for. Now that is typically your spouse taking care of a spouse. And how many people think about that? I don't think very many. So you've got a wife taking care of a husband. She's doing everything. And typically, back to that role, I'm only a caregiver, this is all I do, nobody needs to help me, I know what he needs, I'm gonna take care of everything. Nobody else knows how to work it. She falls down the stairs, breaks her hip, has to go to the hospital. Who's going to take care of Dad? Nobody knows how to take care of Dad. Nobody knows what Dad needs. Now what are you going to do? You've got to spread the care around. You've got to build your team, and you'll hear me say that a lot. It's a team approach. You have to have that, because nobody else will know how to take care of Dad. Who knows how long? Mom's now going to go to the hospital. Mom's going to go to rehab. Mom's going to come back. She's not going to be able to stand up and cook. She's not going to be able to do any of those things that she used to do. And she certainly is not going to be able to help him transfer or do any of the daily living things that she used to help with. You've got to have a backup plan. On my website, and I have cards over here, I have a booklet. It's called the Everything You Need to Know booklet. And it's a little tedious in the beginning to fill it all out, but you have that there. You can download it for free and fill it out, that if something does happen, you know who to call. And it's things like, who's the vet? What's the neighbor's number? What time does he take his medicine? What day does the trash go out? It's silly things that we do every day. We don't think we need to tell anybody, but if you're not there, who's going to know? And then it goes on and it has bank accounts and things like that that you can fill in as well. But just the little nitty-gritty stuff we don't think about, somebody needs to know. So So going forth, I'm going to go through Maslow's hierarchy of needs and talk about what we need as a caregiver to be fulfilled. And the way that Maslow designed this is you have to fulfill one need before you can move on to the next. So often in tragic times, we get stuck. We might get stuck at the bottom and we can't move on up to the top. So we have to reach that goal and then we move forward. And you can download this. I see you taking a picture. You can download this on my website after you leave, so you'll have that for free as we go on. So we start with the very basics, the psychological needs. These are the needs that we all need to survive: food, water, warmth, and rest. Everybody needs this. What happens is your caregiver focuses on the needs of the one they're caring for, and they forget about themselves. They often think, I'll stay up later and make sure mom goes to sleep and she's settled, or mom gets up in the middle of the night and has to go to the bathroom. I'll get up. It doesn't matter that now it takes me an hour to go back to sleep. So maybe I'm getting 4 hours a night of sleep, but mom's getting 7. So as long as mom is doing everything. What about being hungry or hangry? I am awful. If I get to being hangry, don't talk to me. What do you want? You need a pillow? Well, okay, let me get it for you. You know, who's that helping? And then the next day, you're guilty. You feel guilty. So then you go through that whole cycle of, oh, I shouldn't have said that. I'm so sorry. And you go back and forth. Of course, we need water for our bodies. We need to have warmth and shelter. We need to be comfortable in our homes. So we all need that to go forward. And of course, we know, just like children, we need the rest. If you're not sleeping well, you can't do anything well. You think about little sleep, it's the same thing as hangry. You're nasty. I am. I'm very nasty if I don't get enough sleep. My sister-in-law and I always talk about, we'll go on family vacations, and if we don't have our 8 hours sleep, everybody else in the family better go on, because we're coming after you. We want our sleep. You have to have sleep to take care of somebody else. So you have to fuel yourself to be able to take care of somebody. So the next one is safety and security. So it's a little bit different in that 70% of working caregivers say that they have had some sort of work-related difficulties, whether it be they've gone into work late, they've had to take off early, they had to take maybe their sick days or their vacation days to go to the doctor with their loved one. They may have had to decrease their hours. They may have had to take unpaid leave just to do what they needed to do. Maybe they had caregivers and the caregiver didn't show up, so they had to go home and fill that shift. That they don't have time to go and do health and wellness themselves, so they're not going to the doctor. I better go to work because I took that day off to take care of my mom, so they don't take off to take care of themselves. And then this one's interesting, the fairness, the standards of care. So how many times have you heard people say, well, Aunt Susie went into the hospital and she got new towels and a warm bed and she got snacks every 2 hours and my mom's not getting that. Why isn't she getting that? That's not fair. I want that. Why can't I have that? Why are the standards different? I want the same rights as all the other patients. Now, you probably don't know the whole story. Not to say that that's always not true, because I'm sure that's true. But you start feeling those things. You want those things for your family. You want to make sure your loved one is getting the best care. You want to make sure they're getting all their needs met as well. So you start feeling those things as well for yourself. I want to know that I can come in at 10 o'clock at night and sit with mom, just like that girl. That girl's over there, she's sitting with her mom. I want to come sit with her too, my mom too. Well, you can't. Visiting hours are over at 9, but she's doing it. I want the fairness. So you want the security, the safety, the fairness that everybody else is getting. When you think about work, and some of the businesses now have gotten better about having the leave for you to take care of your loved ones, but it's scary because now you may not be making your mortgage payments. You may not be doing things. Your siblings may be working and doing things, but you're the one taking off. We have a story, a lady, there's 5 siblings in the family, and for the most part, they all agree, which is beautiful because that typically does not happen. So they were all trying to decide how to take care of mom. She volunteered and decided that she would quit her job and take care of mom. Nobody asked her to do it. She chose to do it. So now we're 3 years into it. She hasn't worked. She's decided that she thinks her siblings should pay her what her salary was. So she comes to us and says, we're going to have a family meeting and we would like you to ask my siblings for $85,000. Exactly. And we said, no, that's not the way we do this. But that's what she thought. She thought it's not fair that they get to continue to work, but it was something that she chose to do. And she was out that money. She continues to come up with ways to this day how to recoup that money, and it's not going to happen. I understand where she's coming from. I understand how she feels. That's not going to happen. So the next level is love and belonging. This one is really hard as far as every aspect of your life. And I have watched many marriages suffer from caregiving. If it's your parent, your spouse may not always be on board. As I said, I went to Pennsylvania. I stayed several times a month at a time. Now, my husband is very family-oriented. He supported me. And our daughter at that point was an adult, basically. But if we had little children, that wasn't something I could do. And my job supported me. I could do it from Pennsylvania as well as I could do it here. But if you have a husband or a wife that doesn't agree with that and you're gone all the time, that's going to put a strain on your marriage. If you're skipping dinner because your mom has called and said she's fallen and she needs somebody to come over, that's a situation. And you don't spend time, you're not nurturing your marriage, that's a situation. Friendships. Will I ask her to go out to dinner? The last 3 weeks in a row, she said no, she couldn't go out. Well, one may be she's tired, she's busy. The other side of that might be you don't understand what she's going through. If she talks to you about what's going on in her life, how hard it is to care for her mom, you sort of blank out. You don't care. It's hard if you're not caring for somebody to have somebody come and tell you all these things. You don't care. If you're not in the midst of it, I don't want to listen to it. I don't know what you're going through. I don't know. Or you sit there and go back to those stories of, well, Aunt Sharon did such and such and such and such, and you should be able to do that. You know, they all want to give advice. That's a big thing. Even those siblings that don't help out, they like to give advice. We call those folks sorry if anybody's from California, but we tell those folks they're the brother from California and just send them back. You have your social groups you don't get to attend because you might be on call. Church, that falls by the wayside. That might be the only time you have time to yourself, or you're taking your parent to their church, or something's happened and you can't go. It's lonely being a caregiver. I can remember that 95% of the time I thought about my mom. I got up in the morning thinking about her, thinking, when am I going to get that call? When the phone rang, I was tense immediately. What's it going to be? What did she do today? I'd go to bed at night thinking about her. Then you have your, back to the brother from California, families aren't like they used to be. We have the blended families. She's your mom, you take care of her. She's just my stepmom. Or I'm not getting involved, or families aren't talking anymore. Somebody had a falling out. I'm not helping you do that. I don't have time to do it, but I'll be happy to tell you how to do it. I can come one day a week, but I can't help any more than that. I didn't like the way she looked at me last week. I'm not coming back. It's all those things. We all want to belong, and we all want to be loved. And I think sometimes you think about just being hugged, just somebody to come up and hug you and say, "You're doing a good job." But we go back to the team. You've got to build your team. Your team may not be your family. It may not be your friends. It may be the doctor. It may be a social worker. It may be a care manager, somebody that will walk the walk with you. It may be a neighbor. It's somebody you've got to build a team because you can't do it on your own. So back to that esteem, we want to be thanked. We want somebody to say you're doing a good job. You know, there's so many people. My mother, I told you my father passed away early. My mother had lots of boyfriends. We would always say in the church, as soon as somebody's wife passed away, well, mom's got another one coming up. So she would have all these little men, and she would say she'd go out with this one and that one. Well, there was one that stuck, and he thought he was in charge, and I thought I was in charge. So he would constantly come and question everything I did. Well, I will tell you that as a caregiver, I didn't always do the right thing, even though I knew the right thing to do. When it's your own family, your ego and everything gets in the way. So he would call, and I wanted to prove to everybody I knew what my mother needed, and I was going to do it, even if I bullied my way through it. And so I just wanted that man to tell me, "You're doing a good job as a caregiver." He never did. And I craved that the whole time I was caregiving, and I never got that from him. Now, my mother would say, when my brother and my sister were still alive, she would say, "You're good at this stuff." So I did get that from her. Of course, she didn't like some of the choices I made for her, so I never got that when I was caring for her. I just ruined her life. So we moved on from that. And I'd say, "Mom, you're not saying very nice things." She says, "I know, honey, and I love you. But why are you doing this?" So I would get the 2 seconds and then we'd move on. But it took a while. But yes, we all need that appreciation. We need somebody to say, "You're doing the right thing." So it's confusing one day to the next. We want to know that we're doing the right things. And we can get people on our team, can be those people. Our friends can be those people to help us get through that. And then at the very top, that's when you realize that you're learning, you're evolving, you're becoming the best person you can be. You become self-aware, and you don't need somebody to tell you you're doing the right thing. You know that what you're doing, you've learned, you've moved along, and now you know that you have done the right thing, and that you've helped through learning yourself, taking care of yourself, that you are the best person that you can be. So as you're looking at a person, how do you recognize these needs? What does it look like? How do you know somebody needs help? I'm so tired. That's your basic needs. I just don't know if I can get groceries this week. I don't know if I can pay mom's room. I don't know if I can pay for the caregiver this week. Security needs. I am so lonely. I don't have anybody to talk to about this. Nobody understands me when I talk about caregiving. That's your love and belonging. What do other people think? Do they think I'm making wrong decisions? Do they think I'm making a bad decision? What should I go and ask them? Do they think she should wear a blue shirt instead of a pink shirt? That's your esteem and your needs. Honoring the loved one, making them happy, taking care of them, that is the self-actualization, doing what they need, not what I need. So, how do you achieve this goal? Self-care, which you all are thinking, massages and getting your nails done. No. I'm thinking of self-care as realizing you're burnt out. And that looks like sometimes you're in bed that morning, that 95%, and I think, I don't want to get out of bed this morning. I don't want to pick up that phone when it rings. And if it rings and I'm burnt out, how helpful am I going to be to her? Back comes that nasty voice. What now, Mom? What do you need? That's not helping her. That doesn't help me. Realizing I'm burnt out. If you can take the time, and I truly believe everybody should have a therapist. I think if you can go and talk to somebody in a safe environment, that you can say all these things. I mean, you go up to your friend and say, man, I really don't like my mom today. She is driving me crazy. Well, you know they're going over and saying, did you hear what she said? She said she hates her mom. You're in a safe spot, and your therapist is going to help you with boundaries and different things to help you get through it. It is so helpful to take care of yourself. I can't even read that. I bet you can't either. Sharing resources. We often tell folks, ask around. Has your friend gone to a facility? What did you think about it? Did you use a company? Ask other people. Now, that doesn't mean you have to take it as the gospel, but ask other people. Word of mouth is great. Did they have a good experience? Did they not? Why didn't they have a good experience? Things like that. Build your team. The doctor, a therapist, the nurse, your friends, somebody at the church. Now, I'm going to back this up and say, the church doesn't know anything. Everybody thinks, I'm going to go and I'm going to talk to the preacher. And I work at a church, so I can say this. And our church is very different. And there's some churches out there that do know. But for the most part, they don't know who to send you to. We all have that book, and that book is my best friend. I use that book, the resource book that we have back on the table. It's the best thing ever. But they don't know the ins and outs. So find somebody, find a social worker who can help you go through that. You go to the hospital, you're ready to be discharged. They hand you a list of 100 rehabs. Pick one. I'll be back in 30 minutes. You have no idea. So reach out to somebody like myself or another care manager. Talk to your friends what their experiences have been, because you have no idea. We have the inside information of where to go and how to help. Support groups, oh my gosh, so invaluable. I have a support group, there's a support group here. Just so many people think, I don't want to get in and I don't want to talk. You don't have to talk. You do your comfort level. I have a group that's virtual. All support groups have different personalities. If you don't like the personality of the group you start with, look around, find something else, find another group. It is so, every time somebody joins, I hear them say, I didn't know everybody else knew this. I can't believe somebody else is going through exactly what I'm going through. Not only that, they share resources or ideas. You know, we had one lady talking about Depends one time. This is how I changed my mom. Everybody was in awe. It was a new idea. So it's helpful. It's so helpful to talk to other people who are going through the same thing. After caregiving is done, and I'm not saying a year, several years, pay it forward. Maybe help somebody just do one of the walks if it's dementia, or maybe facilitate a support group. Do something to help another caregiver, even if it's just one-on-one. A friend's going through it, help them walk the walk. But you can't do it alone because it's so hard. Caregiving is so hard that you will lose yourself and you will be the forgotten caregiver if you try to do it by yourself and you're not doing anybody any help, any good. If you can't function, you can't take care of somebody. So caregiving is challenging is basically what I've said. Nobody's perfect. We all make mistakes. We all yell. We all get tired. We all snap. We all say things we don't mean. They still love us and we still love them. We're human. It happens. I had somebody say once, remember, you are a good caregiver if you just get up every day and show up. And just take care of yourselves. And I have my cards back on the table. It has my website. I have several resources on my website that you can download. Things of what to ask care companies, what to ask the doctor when you go in. That booklet is on there. There's several different things that you can download from the website. And of course, if you feel like you need help along the way, you can also hire me to help with consulting. But thank you.